Welcome in episode number 45 of the St0ner Sports Radio podcast. We are here and ready for week 2. We'll recap week 1 for you, go over games that shocked us, go over things that went as planned. We'll preview week 2 and give you our thoughts on who's drinking the Kool-Aid. Zach's got his top 25. I'm going to rip it to shreds, or I might agree completely. We'll see what happens with that, and we'll go visit the St0ner Sportsbook, where once again you are big winners, folks. Big winners this weekend with us. If you're picking along and tailing, you are in the money big time, folks. And we will give you our braggadocious picks as we head into week 2, where you will be winning again. You'll be winning again, baby! And joining us this evening is Mr. Zach Huffman at Zach_Huffman_. Mr. Huffman, how are we doing on this Taco Tuesday?
We are doing great. And, I just got 2 words.
Boomer Sooner. It was a Boomer Sooner weekend. We had so much fun down in Norman. It might have got off to a rocky start. I may have had to make my way into the stadium a little delayed. But we made
That's
it.
what you get for bringing that branded backpack.
Yeah,
who do you think you are bringing that?
Oh my God, yeah, big mistake. I mean, the thing is nobody pointed it out though. See, like if it was obvious, I feel like I would have gotten heckled. It wasn't. I mean, I told you it was very subtle. You had to squint to figure it out. But I got roasted by security anyways, and the clear bag policy bit me in the keister, and I ended up having to hide the backpack on campus, without the cops seeing, so I wouldn't have to evacuate the whole entire stadium and be that guy. So that was fun. But 73 nothing drubbing. Yeah, 73 nothing drubbing. Everybody good news. Bad news, Davis Bevell tears his MCL. He's gonzo for about half. No,
it's just an ankle injury.
Oh, he's still out for like multiple weeks. I
was hoping he'd be out for the season.
Here's the great news here. Guess who got a bigger standing ovation than Jackson Arnold?
General Booty.
That's right, baby. They were going crazy for the Booty Man. They just love that marketing campaign. I don't blame them. General Booty getting a standing ovation.
The richest fourth quarterback in college football.
Oh, 100%. I mean, can you imagine if John David Booty, the USC quarterback, would have been able to get NIL money? I mean, it'd be over. It would have been over. It would have been over. But let's go over some of these games, right? I mean, week 1 action. Really, most of the games were pretty chalk. I'm going to start with my Oregon Ducks, 81-7. Just an absolute butt kicking. Bucky Irving, the transfer from Minnesota, 4 carries, 119 yards, 2 touchdowns. 4 carries, 119 yards. Talk about not tackling. They let him rip off like 2 50-plus yard touchdowns on half of his carries. You won't see that stat probably again the rest of the year, but good for him getting his footing in a Ducks uniform. Of course, we talked about 73-0. Really not much to take away from that, Zach, right? I mean, other than this, this is what I'll bring up. And Brent Venables today during his press conference was very adamant about this as well. The pressure to the quarterback was poor. No sacks, no real hurries. Now Arkansas State was getting the ball out quick. They were doing a lot of screen passes, a lot of slants, a lot of quick 5-yard routes, not a lot of deep balls. So they weren't really letting their quarterback sit in the pocket for an extended period of time. But I mean, there were some moments where you probably could have gotten there but didn't, and that was probably the low end of this. What was your takeaways from this game?
Well, I agree with you there that the quarterback pressure should have been a lot better. We ended up getting 1 sack late in the game, which I mean, it just wasn't. Who cares? That's kind of my thing. We should have had 5. But there are a couple things I'll say about that, about the defense, at least on that game. First, if it was Lincoln Riley, they would have had 14. Second, it wasn't really a shutout. They missed 2 field goals. Let's remember that.
Yeah, that's true.
They missed 2 field goals. They were in long field goal territory. I don't think that the Sooners let them get past the 40-yard line.
I mean, maybe the 37 at the most.
Yeah, I
I
mean,
mean,
it
the
just
field
it
goal. I think
wasn't
the field
happening.
goals were in the mid 40 range, so maybe they got inside the 35 a couple times, but I don't think they made it into the actual 25-yard red zone. I don't think they ever made
Yeah.
it into the red zone. No red zone for the Red
So,
Wolves, and you made Butch Jones cry. You made Butch Jones
yeah,
fucking cry.
yeah, made Butch Jones cry, and I wanna talk about not just offense, but right now I wanna talk about special teams. G Freaky,
Ooh, that's
Gavin
right.
Freeman. Gavin Freeman is just he is him. That's what I witnessed in that game. That punt return, he looked good, obviously, he was playing against some high schoolers basically, but, I mean, Gavin Freeman, he looked good. I'll give him
Yeah,
that much. He didn't get too much utilization in the offense itself, but on special teams, they let him run wild on that punt return, and boy, did he run wild. I mean, first punt return of the year, and we did a touchdown off of it, 14-0 lead off of that. The stadium went crazy. I mean, you were there.
yeah.
Boomer Sooner hit extra hard on that punt
Yeah,
return
it did.
touchdown.
It did. And I mean, and fabulously, I mean, the stadium emptied out probably by the end of the third. I would say
Mhm.
it was pretty bare bones by then. I think most people were pretty satisfied with what they'd seen. Everybody with their kids and stuff had probably gone by then. We're kind of sickos, so we kind of waited a little bit, but we just
We
wanted.
waited till Jackson Arnold was
Yeah,
done.
yeah, we waited until Jackson Arnold was no longer on the field, and then we kind of left,
Mhm.
and a good showing from him as well. I think he looked like a 5-star quarterback. I think he looked like someone that you can say the future is very well in his hands. Or if Dylan Gabriel goes down, I don't think I'm super scared, like I was last year in that Texas
I
game.
mean,
I
listen,
don't think I don't
I
think
told you if they went down that Jackson Arnold gets just as many wins as Dylan Gabriel this
Yeah,
season.
and the other thing I noticed was not a lot of RPOs from Dylan Gabriel. Now there might have been,
Mhm.
but he never pulled it as much as I thought he was going to pull it.
No.
I think he had one towards the goal line where he pulled it and walked it in. But I think that for the most part, when he had those RPO options, he handed it off. No Gavin Sawchuk this game either, and we'll see him against SMU this week. So excited to see kind of him play, and I think another running back as well will get some time. RJ Anderson or something like that. He didn't play either.
Yeah.
So I don't think that it's going to be as um, it wasn't as interesting as it could have been, right? I mean, we saw some things, but
Yeah.
we didn't see anything. My big takeaway was Andrell Anderson, big time transfer, wide receiver,
Yeah.
definitely.
Looking like wide receiver 1.
Yeah, looking like wide receiver one over Farouk. Well, I mean, I would have said Drake Stoops is probably wide receiver one. You had to leave
Yeah, he did get hurt.
with an injury, but coaches said he wanted to go back in, but they were like, no need. We're up 45 nothing. Just chill on the sideline. Put him in a
Listen to
set.
this about Drake Stoops, though. The little time he was in, 4 receptions, 56 yards, 1 touchdown.
Yeah, I mean it was a good day. It was a good day. He was doing what he was
Yeah.
supposed to do. But Dylan Gabriel was looking for him, right? I don't think there was anything that was keeping Dylan Gabriel from looking for Drake Stoops as his first option on multiple plays on that opening drive, the opening 2 drives, I should say. He was definitely a target that he was looking for. So he'll be back against SMU. That'll be a big thing for OU as they get ready for SMU, who's got a bunch of transfers that really make that team viable. They took care of Louisiana Tech over the weekend, and they looked good doing it. They were up 31 nothing at halftime, and it's kind of coasted the rest of the way to a 38-14 win. I don't think that uh, I don't think I don't think Preston Stone played the second half, so I think that's probably why they only scored 7 points in the fourth quarter. Um, but I mean, again, I mean that's kind of we'll get into that here into week 2. Heading down the list here, Oklahoma State
Yeah.
gets the win over Central Arkansas 27-13, and boy howdy, was this a rough,
Ugly.
this was a rough watch for me. I sat down and watched this. While I had my four screens going on my YouTube TV, I had this on my phone. And oh God, Zach, I can't. I mean, look, I'm gonna be honest. I've gone to more OSU games as an Oklahoman than I have OU games. My mom beat me in the head with the OSU stick more than my dad beat me in the head with the OU stick. I've got probably 8 posters on my wall. 90% are OSU posters. I've got like 2 OU posters. Like it's just it. So I have a little bit of bias as far as who I would like to see perform better. I always root for Oklahoma State when they play OU. I'm sorry. I just like to root for the underdog. I know it never ends up well for me, but quit punting it to Tyreek Hill and quit getting sacked on 4th down, and maybe you'd have 2 more victories. It's not a rivalry, but it's fun to watch. And I'm going to be honest, my takeaways from this game were Alan Bowman looked like quarterback number 3. Rangel looked good. Gundy looked okay. Gunnar Gundy's kid did. Or Mike Gundy's son, Gunnar Gundy, looked good on his 2 drives in the fourth that resulted in touchdowns. And I was talking to you earlier before we started, and I just kind of want to say that I don't think that Mike Gundy was playing to win this game. I think he was playing not to lose this game. And I think that he did that in the end. He put his starting running back, Colin Oliver, back in the game, and that's who kind of led the way. He averaged like over 6 yards a carry when he was in, but didn't get any carries in the second or third quarter. Took him out and had the other guys running, and that's why he only had the 2 field goals in the second quarter and no points in the third, was because they just really had the 2s running in there with Central Arkansas, which you can do because you're playing Central Arkansas, but beating them by 14 didn't really make me feel like the depth was great.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, they didn't look good, but like you said, it looked like Mike Gundy was just trying to figure a couple of things out. With this team, obviously, the quarterback situation looked really ugly, but I think, I mean, geez, who do you think's starting next week?
It's probably Rangel. I would think Rangel gets the start. I think Gundy comes in as the 2 if needed, but I think they'll rotate. I think this is another game against Arizona State where they're going to rotate. We'll get into that a little bit more later, but I think that that's kind of one of those games that it doesn't look good. The defense got 5 sacks, so I mean you kind of have that as a positive. Defensive line looked good. Secondary looked okay. But again, a lot of rotation, a lot of second unit guys getting in, so you don't really know anything about how good the team is. I think against Arizona State in the desert, I think we'll get a little bit more feel of kind of how good this team is. But as far as off of this game, there's just really nothing to take away other than they're just more talented just walking into the stadium than Central Arkansas. Congrats! Like Arkansas State would beat Central Arkansas on a neutral field by 7. Like if that tells you anything. So I mean, like that's the kind of team we're looking at. Georgia took care of UT Martin 48-7. Carson Beck had 294 yards and a touchdown. I mean, Georgia just smoked them. We didn't really anticipate anything other than that. Michigan gets the win over East Carolina 30-3. I thought this game was going to be a little more competitive. I'm not going to lie. East Carolina usually has a decent team, but I mean, let's be honest. Again, you have a team in Michigan that wasn't really doing anything other than just vanilla offense. McCarthy had a good game, 280 and 3 touchdowns. I think that's kind of what you expect from JJ. Without Coach Harbaugh on the sideline, I think we talked about his suspension in earlier episodes. We didn't think it was going to really hinder anything because they're not playing anybody. So I don't think that there's really much to take away other than the fact that East Carolina is not that great and Michigan looks like the number 2 team in the country. I mean, score-wise, not really. I would say my Ducks probably take the cake if you're going by score margin of best team in the country, followed by OU right after them. If you were going by score
number
margin,
1 and number 2.
Yeah, they're going by score margin. I think that the rankings would be a little different, but it's going by talent, and I think East Carolina is better than Portland State and Arkansas State, so I'll give them that. Ohio State, a 20-point win over Indiana, and this was another game, Zach, where a quarterback situation looked okay. I mean, 239 and a pick, no touchdowns for Kyle McCord. The Devin Brown, who wears number 33, which is gross, he got a little bit of run and didn't do anything, so they put McCord back in. What was your takeaway from Ohio State? I mean, it doesn't look great on the scoreboard, just like the OSU game, but again, you're playing Indiana. They're not great. It was tied at half. It was almost tied at halftime. It was 10-3 at half. So it was really ugly. It was an ugly win, but I mean, a win's a win, and I think me and you agree that eventually this team's probably going to fall off a cliff if something doesn't change.
Yeah, I mean, this team's definitely going to lose to Penn State, and if they get to, I mean, and then they're going to lose to Michigan. I mean, it's just going to happen. They're not a playoff team. They're not contenders in the Big Ten. At this point, they looked terrible. They should have beat Indiana by at least 5 touchdowns, especially with that wide receiver room. I mean, Marvin Harrison Jr. had 2 receptions for 18 yards, I think. I mean, that's terrible. Absolutely terrible. This man was on Heisman
and that's
watch.
on the quarterback. That's on the quarterback, right?
Yeah.
Because you have to imagine he was open. If not, they were double covering the whole time, and McCord was forced to throw elsewhere. But I think that's got to be on the quarterback, right?
He kind of, I mean, I think he just looked a little slow.
Yeah. I mean, but I don't know.
I
don't know if he cared enough. I don't know if that's Indiana. I don't know if they were really trying. This is the problem I have.
He's on Heisman watch.
Yeah.
He should have tried to get 100 yards at least.
Yeah.
Like, he is no longer on Heisman watch. That has now been replaced by Travis Hunter. Like, it's over.
Deservedly so, but we'll get to that in a minute.
Deservedly so.
Um,
It wouldn't have been deservedly so if Marvin Harrison Jr. had, 200 yards.
I don't know. Well, yeah, you're probably right. Alabama beats Middle Tennessee 56-7. Milroe looked okay, right? I mean, I think that's what we take away
Yeah.
is Milroe looks like quarterback one. A lot of people were concerned about him. I said in the offseason, I said, I don't think that this quarterback controversy in Alabama is a quarterback controversy. I think he's the guy. He looks good. But again, they're going to have, I mean, you had 2 rushing touchdowns and 3 throwing touchdowns, 5 total for him. Is a great day for him. 48 yards on the ground, 194 throwing it. And the team looked like a number 1 team in the country. To be honest, I think they looked better than Georgia. I think that they even looked better than Michigan. But that's just me having bias, knowing that eventually I think that's what's going to happen. Is they're eventually going to climb their way from that 4 spot all the way to that top spot. And they just looked like what they should have looked like.
Yeah, I agree with that. I don't agree with you thinking that Alabama's number 1 right now. I still think that there's some questions for Alabama.
I think they played the toughest team out of those 2 teams, though. I think Middle Tennessee would beat East Carolina. They scored 7 points against Alabama's, probably first string defense, I would think.
It's hard to compare. They're all terrible.
Yeah, week 1 is such a garbage week to try to analyze, but we're doing our best, okay?
We're doing. Yeah, well, just like East Carolina, Middle Tennessee, they're just terrible. That's really all you can really say about them is they're terrible. So it's hard. Like, would Michigan put up 56 on Middle Tennessee? I don't know.
I don't think they run the offense to do that, to be honest. But I mean,
yeah,
it's 2 different styles
different.
too. Yeah, so I mean, it's. Yeah, I think definitely.
And it's a coaching thing too. Like, a lot of coaches just say, "All right, we're going to run it,
pull it back,
and pull it back." Like, we're not going to beat them by 7 touchdowns. We're not going to beat them 73-0
because they don't have winners mentality.
They don't have a winner's mentality, and we were there. I was saying go for 80.
Yeah, and they should have because they didn't, and my Ducks did.
You beat a team 80-0.
Yeah, that's saying something. I don't think you're going to get more dominant than Oregon and Oklahoma over the weekend. USC beat Nevada 66-14. And I'm going to be honest, I picked Nevada plus the points, and it came back and bit me in the ass. Look, the reason I did was because A, Lincoln Riley only covers the spread 46% of the time, and B, I really thought Nevada's offense would look better than it did. At the end of the first, it was 21-7. At halftime, it was 35-7. And I was like, well, if Nevada gets a couple scores here in the second half and they kind of pull back, they could still cover because the spread was pretty massive. But in the end, it was a 24-point fourth quarter that kind of exploded USC way past that 36.5-point spread, and they end up beating them by 52 points. So, just a little bit of a good performance. 5 touchdowns for Caleb Williams. I thought that they played, Nevada. I think that's kind of all you can say. I overestimated Nevada's talent.
Yeah, they played Nevada, and I'll say it. I'll be the hater. USC still didn't look that good.
That's right. Say it.
I don't want to be the guy, but let's pull up the stats. Let's do it. Because I haven't hated enough on this team. 66-14. Like I said, Lincoln Riley coaches that OU game. Arkansas State scores 14 because that just tends to happen. So I want to know one thing. USC's secondary still trash. Let's talk about it. Jamal Bell, 8 receptions, 121 yards, 1 touchdown.
Yeah,
Spencer Curtis, 3 receptions, 83 yards, 27.7 yard average.
That's some big chunks.
Oh, yeah. John Jackson III, he had 3 receptions, 52 yards, 17.3 average. You got 3 receivers that are cooking your secondary from Nevada.
Yeah.
What? Yeah. What are we doing?
I think
that's a terrible secondary. It's Alex Grinch, and he's the problem. He obviously is like fucking Lincoln Riley's wife or something.
There's something going on. There's something
Something
going
is
on.
going on. Why is this man still have a job in the
I
FBS?
don't
Like,
think
that's what I
UCO would
wanna
hire
know.
him. I don't think UCO would hire
I
him.
don't think UCO would hire him. Well, they would because 'cause they're
I don't
terrible.
know, but they're not. They're doing great. They're 2-0.
I haven't been paying attention. They were terrible when I was at UCO.
Yeah, no, they've been good the last 2 years. So I mean, they're definitely way better than Alex
And listen
Grinch.
to this. I didn't even look at AJ, what is it, AJ Bianco? He had 4 or 5 passing, 129 yards, 1 touchdown. That man cooked you for like 5 for like a drive. He cooked you.
Cooked, cooked, cooked.
Like
I mean,
USC looks pretty. I mean, like obviously their offense they look good. I mean, I'll say it. Like, yeah, I mean, yeah, Caleb Williams is a really good
yeah,
quarterback,
but you know
and
who's been underwhelming to me though? You know who's been underwhelming? Marshawn Lloyd's been underwhelming. I mean, 7 carries,
yeah,
76 yards, and a score. I mean, for a guy at South Carolina that pretty much carried that offense when Spencer Rattler wasn't playing well, I think that's kind of disappointing to see. And that was the leading rusher. Like that's
yeah.
like
I'm
that's
disappointed in Mario Williams.
yeah. Who he's not
Like,
wide receiver one. He was wide receiver three when he transferred.
yeah, and that's the terrible thing is that he should have been wide receiver 1, and he's not.
No, he's not.
He wouldn't even be wide receiver 1 at OU anymore.
No, absolutely not. I think he would be probably
But
a third or fourth option.
I mean, this defense looked pretty terrible. They were rushing the quarterback all right.
Yeah, the defensive line looks okay, but again, you're talking about Nevada here, so we need to probably dial it back a little bit. I mean,
Yeah,
I mean,
well, it's
like,
Nevada, and you let the receivers cook you. They just
oh
couldn't find
yeah,
the end zone.
oh yeah. See,
Like,
that's
why are the receivers cooking your like you're the what is it? What are they right now? Like the 6th best team in the country, and your
oof,
defense is getting cooked by Nevada.
oof. I mean,
I mean,
Bo
what
Nix
the
is
hell?
drooling right now. Bo Nix is ready. I mean, Bo Nix is hankering for that game against USC late in the season, and I think Sam Hartman's looking at that game here in a couple weeks, going, I'm gonna throw for 520. I mean, like, I mean that's kind of what I'm looking at here. Let's move on to this game. Penn State beat West Virginia 38-15, and I'm gonna be honest, this game was good for 3 quarters. It was ugly, to be honest.
Yeah,
It was ugly football. But again, you know, Penn State does what Penn State does, and they pulled away. And West Virginia, you know, they're going to be a tough win in this conference of the Big 12. They're
yeah,
not going to be easy. Garrett Green looked good. Um, West Virginia played as well as they
inefficient,
could have
but good.
played, and I think that, you know, having as many chances as they did to take control of that football game says a lot about the team West Virginia is, more than it says about Penn State.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Now, I mean, obviously, West Virginia had a score late,
Yeah.
um, so it kind of drove up the score a little bit. It should have been 38
But
to
it was still
7,
only a two
being
possession
honest.
game heading into the fourth. 21-7 heading into the fourth.
Yeah, that's fair. And obviously Penn State came in and took care of business.
Yeah.
I mean, quarterbacks look good. I mean, I'm just looking at some stats here. Defense obviously could have played better. They got, what is it, 3 sacks?
Yeah. But Garrett
I
Green
mean,
is so mobile. He's hard to get.
yeah, but he's so inefficient on like, from the air.
Yeah.
Like the dude isn't great at reading defenses. He's not your typical pocket quarterback. He's got
But
his legs.
what
He's
is
got
this,
his
like
legs.
his fourth or fifth game playing for West Virginia? Like, you have to think about that too. Like,
I mean,
he
it's
came into the
college
game for
football.
the first time as a quarterback against OU. That was the first game he had played at West Virginia.
Yeah,
And he cooked you. But I mean, that's Alex
yeah,
Grinch's fault. That's Alex Grinch's fault. We'll blame Alex Grinch for
yeah.
that.
That was a different
Um,
team.
um, um, but um, but I mean,
Different
it was,
team.
yeah, different team.
Brent Venables wasn't calling the plays.
No, so yeah, screw you, Ted Ruff. But I mean, so that, I mean, that kind of went the way I thought it would go, but I thought it would be a lot prettier. Washington gets the win over Boise State 56-19. This was another game that was kind of ugly,
Ugly.
uglier than the score really kind of you know suggests. But Michael Penix Jr. 450 yards and 5 scores, definitely a Heisman contender, no doubt, still firmly in the race.
Yeah.
From the Pac-12. I mean, anything to really take away from this other than that? I don't really think so.
I mean, they didn't look good early on, but they got it together. They got it
Yeah,
together pretty quick after that. I mean, I think at one point it was 9-9, but I mean,
yeah,
who cares? They came away with a pretty big win. They just had to
Boise
figure it
State
out
won
third
the first
quarter.
quarter 6-0, baby. It was looking
Yeah,
like
yeah.
trouble.
Like they needed the first half to figure it out, and then they were fine.
Yeah. So.
And that's coaching. I mean,
Yeah.
that's coaching big time there. Like halftime adjustments. They
Yeah.
came out. They scored like 35 unanswered or whatever.
Yeah.
So
It was 28 unanswered in the second half, and then just 28 by themselves in the second quarter. So I mean, it was a bopping, but it was a slow moving bopping. Same with Texas. They get the win over Rice 37-10. No points for Texas in the fourth quarter, but I don't think that they were playing their starters at that point because it was 37-3. I mean, nothing to really take away from this other than it just was ugly first half.
I have a lot to take away from it.
I mean, 16-3 at halftime, not really impressing me, but Quinn Ewers 263 touchdowns, Xavier Worthy 7 catches for 90 yards. I mean, Xavier Worthy looks like more of a wide receiver this week than Marvin Harrison Jr., and that's saying something. Because I don't think Indiana's marginally better than Rice on the defensive side of the ball. I think Rice's offense is just terrible.
I have a lot to take away from this Texas
game.
So I'm gonna turn on my hater shades or whatever. They look terrible. We disagreed on this, but Arkansas State is a better team than Rice.
Yes.
And Texas let Rice get, what was it, 10 or 13?
10. Yeah, 10. They had three in the first half and a garbage touchdown at the end.
Listen, I don't care what happened. Texas should have won by at least 73-0. And the fact that they didn't means a couple of things for the Longhorn season. One, their ceiling is 10-2. I'll tell you why their ceiling is 10-2. One, they're about to get collapsed by Alabama next week, and I mean collapsed. They are going to get collapsed by Alabama.
Not
that
so fast, my
defense
friend.
cannot hold them down whatsoever. And based on what I saw, and based on margin of victory, they're going to get clapped by Oklahoma. So
I'll give you that.
It's their ceiling is 10-2. They probably go 9-3. Knowing Texas, they go 8-4.
Yeah, you're gonna have some things to say about the spread on this game for sure. I know that for a fact because
if it's not at least 20.5 Alabama, then they're wrong.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with gotta have it on here. No way it's not on here.
Isn't it in Tuscaloosa?
Yeah, well, you're gonna have something to say about this spread. 7.5. 7.5. I hate to be this guy.
They'll be lucky.
7.5.
They'll be lucky.
Yeah, 7.5. I mean, that's on the road. 7.5. So
they'll be lucky. I mean, they'll be absolutely lucky, as in like miracle on Sark himself, if they don't lose by more than 14. Yeah, this team is not what people think it is. Quinn Ewers is not that guy.
Arch Manning ain't him either.
Arch Manning's not that guy.
But we knew that.
And it's Xavier Worthy, not that guy.
No, Xavier Worthy is that guy. Xavier Worthy is him.
No, he's not.
Xavier Worthy is him.
You know what Texas doesn't have, and you know why Texas is ranked the way they were ranked? Because of Bijan Robinson, but he's now in the NFL. So I'm not sure why Texas is still ranked the way they are. They should have hung at least 50 on Rice. They didn't. Middle Tennessee, better than Rice. Alabama hung them, 56-7. Alabama is going to beat Texas 56-14.
Oh, God. Oh, that would be a bopping.
You know what? Actually, never mind. 56-17.
Good God. All right. Well, I think the hater shades were on a little tight there. We got it.
This is the team.
We got to move
Alabama
on.
team. This Alabama team is the one that is going to lose to Oklahoma in the national championship. They're gonna rock Texas.
Oh God. All right. Tennessee disposes of Virginia 49-13.
Yeah.
Virginia stinks. That's all I can say. Virginia stinks.
Yeah, stinks.
Moving on, Notre Dame beats Tennessee State 56-3. Tennessee State not good. Next, I mean, look, I mean, Sam Hartman's looking good, but he only threw for 194 and 2 touchdowns because they didn't need him for like 3 quarters.
Yeah,
Like, so I
yeah,
mean,
he
like,
didn't
yeah,
play the second half.
yeah, I mean, it was 35-3 at halftime. It was like, Sam, hang it up. It's time. Like,
Yeah,
um,
and he's old. He's fine with that.
Audric Estime, 13 carries, 116 yards, and a score. I mean, it was exactly
He's
what they
that
need.
guy.
It's exactly what they needed to do. Notre Dame looks like a top 10 team. I know they're still on the outside looking in, but I think that's just give them 2 weeks. Give them 2 weeks. They'll be in the top 10.
They're in my top 5 because they have the best running back in college football.
Alrighty, we're gonna talk about that later. You reel it back there, Bassmaster. Kansas State beats Southern Missouri, Southeast Missouri State, 45-0. They look exactly the way they're supposed to look, and Southeast Missouri State is poo-poo la pee-pee. Nothing
Yep.
else to say about that game. Moving on to a game that was exciting to watch and one that had me gripping my seat for the whole entire 3.5 quarters we were standing in the stands. It was Colorado getting the win over TCU 45-42. Shadir Sanders, 510 yards, 4 touchdowns.
Mhm.
Um,
We were paying more attention to this game than we were the OU game at
yeah,
this
let's
point.
not lie. Yeah, Amani Bailey for TCU, 14 carries, 164 yards. But that was combated by Dylan Edwards, the running back for Colorado, with 5 receptions for 135 yards out of the backfield and 3 touchdowns. And he had the game-winning touchdown as well in the fourth quarter. I mean, what were your takeaways from this game? Because for me, the takeaway was Colorado is exactly who I thought they were going to be. People were hating on Deion Sanders for having so many transfers, being like, "Oh, nobody's ever done this before. This is going to just be a travesty. This is why the transfer portal is disgusting because you get all these different players in, and then they don't know who each other is. They're like, oh, where do I throw the ball? And then you go 2-8. I mean, it
Calm
just
down,
wasn't."
Dabo.
It wasn't realistic. I knew that Deion Sanders was bringing in quality players because he was only going to allow quality players to be on that roster, and that's why you had 90% of the team leave because he was like, literally, you should not be on the field.
You should ask. You need to ask 3 people about the transfer portal to get an honest opinion after week 1. Deion Sanders, whatever the hell the guy's name is that coaches Texas State.
Kenny, DJ
Yeah,
Kenny.
Kenny. Yeah, because they have like 56 players brand new out of the transfer portal, and then go ask Dabo about the transfer portal and tell me and let him tell you about why you need the transfer portal because you lost to a basketball school because of it.
We'll get there. We'll get there. We're gonna let's focus on this here. What are your takeaways from this Colorado win? Because for me, it kind of solidified 2 things. One, we knew TCU was gonna fall off a cliff without Max Duggan. I'm sorry. TCU's defense ass. The Gary Patterson era has completely worn off of this TCU defense. Like, we knew he left, and we knew he had some players left, and now that he's gone, exposed. And we kind of figured that was going to happen, but now they are officially have all of Gary Patterson washed off of them. Their defense is holier than Swiss cheese, and they can't stop what is actually a really talented team. I mean, Shadir Sanders, 4-star quarterback coming out of high school, followed his dad to Jackson State, which was expected because he wanted to play with daddy. Travis Hunter follows Deion Sanders to Jackson State, top recruit in the country. I mean, they did this because they knew, I think, where Deion wanted to go, which was elevate to the next level, and they followed him there. And again, you're looking at 4- and 5-star guys performing like 4- and 5-star guys. And if anybody can evaluate talent, and I've said this in the past, it's more players than it is people that just do X's and O's. Players can evaluate talent better normally than coaches that have just been coaches. I mean, now you could say, well, the coach played, in high school, and Bob Stoops played at Iowa a little bit, but no, I'm talking about starting. I'm talking about being the guy. A lot of these coaches have played college ball, but they haven't been like starters or been the guy, or because Bob Stoops wasn't the guy. He was coming off the bench. He was like fourth string or something. I mean, Brent Venables, same thing, played but didn't really play starting position. I mean, we're talking about Deion Sanders here. We're talking about one of the best NFL players of all time, if not the best NFL player of all time when it comes to special teams and going both ways and doing it in college and doing it in the pros. Of course, not as much in the pros, but I mean, he still was serviceable, and it's still something to take to the bank, and that's why Travis Hunter wanted to go with him over all these other coaches like Nick Saban and Dabo Swinney and Lincoln Riley. Like, he wanted to follow Deion Sanders because he knew that I play both sides of the ball. Deion played both sides of the ball. He's the best that's ever done it on both sides of the ball. I want to be, as close to him as I can get, and the dude's a hooper too. He's got like a 40-inch vertical. I mean, I sent you that video of him slamming it down. I mean, like, he's I mean, he's a freak, and you saw that over the weekend. And I think you're looking at a solid 6 or 7 win team. I'm hoping for 7, but I think that this is definitely a bowl team. And people are very mistaken about where they put Colorado at this 3.5. I mean, Vegas should be ashamed. Vegas should be
Yeah,
ashamed, and
100%.
it's just ridiculous.
100%. And if the talent around, Shadur Sanders and Travis Hunter was a little bit better, this team would have they would give top 5 teams serious problems. They're not at that point yet. They don't have the talent yet. Do I think if Dion stays there for a while, they'll get that talent? I do believe that they will get that talent if he stays.
Yeah.
Um, but Travis Hunter is, and I told you at the game, he's the best player in college football. Um, he can do everything. It's him or Marvin Harrison Jr. or Caleb Williams, I guess. And right now, I'm thinking it's Travis Hunter, just based on the fact that he's playing both sides of the ball at an elite level. And I agree with Deion Sanders' draft analysis that he can be drafted in the top 5 as a wide receiver one or as a cornerback one. I mean, this or both, if an NFL team is willing to do
Yeah.
that. Like this guy is special. He is the next Deion Sanders, barring any sort of
Injury.
injury.
Yeah.
And I think that, I mean, he right after they won that game, Deion Sanders made it extremely clear he is him.
Yeah.
He is him.
The Heisman's chilling at the crib. It's chilling at the crib.
Yeah.
I mean,
Listen, and if they win 9, if they
oh,
win 9
oh,
games, Heisman,
oh. Yeah.
Heisman.
I mean, why how you couldn't say anything else? I mean, and you're looking at Shadir Sanders probably winning the Davy O'Brien. I mean, you're looking at a
Yeah.
team offensively that's very similar to USC. This is a very similar USC team. The defense is bad.
Mhm.
Let's just be honest. We're glazing up Colorado, but the defense is bad.
Defense does not look good
And
except for Travis Hunter.
yeah, I mean, your defense got saved by being able to force turnovers, and the guy that forced it is the best player on your team. I mean, yeah, and that's what they're there for. That's what your impact players are there for. They're supposed to make those plays when they matter most, and he did that. And here's the beauty of it. And I'm gonna shout out one of my friends, Biggie, on YouTube, Biggien. If you want to look him up, he broke down this pick beautifully. And he said, look, TCU ran the same play that Colorado ran earlier in the game, which means Travis Hunter had seen that play before. It's a very common play. The 2 outside wide receivers on the far left side are running slants towards the inside, looking to try to pick off the linebackers in the middle, and you have the halfback pop out for a little swing route, and he's seen it a million times before. And what do? Instantly jump that route. He was like, "Oh, we run this play in practice. Why are you taking a play that we run and running it? Unbelievable!" And just straight up flew in the air and picked it off. It was a beautiful play.
He knew exactly where it was going.
And he knew exactly where it was going, and that was what made it so easy for him to do that. And that also shows you another thing that's a huge asset going to the next level. He watches film. He pays attention, and he applies that film to real-life game situations where a lot of these guys, yeah, they watch film, but do you really digest it? Are you able to really recognize formations, or do you just go out there and look for the ball, hit the guy with the ball, especially when you're playing defense? Again, a defense gives you a lot more leeway to be wrong when it comes to analyzing film, because as long as you can get where the ball is and you can find it and you can hit them, I mean, you're gonna have pretty good success. But I think it just shows and proves that he pays attention in film, and that's something you can really take as a coach and appreciate it. But I think this is a huge win for Colorado. They deserve to be ranked number 22 in the country, and I don't have any no problems with it. None, no problems.
Nope, none at all.
Wisconsin beat Buffalo 38-17. No one cares about that, other than the fact that the Buffalo quarterback had better stats than the Wisconsin quarterback, which was Tanner Mordecai, which is kind of disappointing if you are him. But that's okay.
Shout out Tanner.
Yeah, you're playing Buffalo, so not really much needed.
Love you, Tanner.
So this was another game that was kind of interesting to watch. North Carolina beats South Carolina 31-17, and all you can say is Spencer Rattler has no offensive line. Getting sacked 9 times is rough, but he still threw for 353 yards. Just no touchdowns, no picks, just nothing to show for it, other than bruises and getting in the ice bath and being absolutely pissed that you don't have an offensive line that's able to protect you worth a damn. Or we can take away and go, look at North Carolina's defensive line. That's a better defensive line than any other ACC team we've seen. So there's two
Yeah.
angles to that.
I mean, I told you this earlier when we were making our pitch. Spencer Rattler, and I still believe this, individually is the best quarterback in the SEC. And I think he proved it in that
Yeah.
game, despite the loss, despite the fact that he got sacked 9 times. It wasn't his fault that he got sacked 9 times. That O line is trash, and despite it, he still threw for over 300 yards. And he had great efficiency. He didn't throw an interception, which he
Yeah.
probably should have thrown an interception.
Yeah.
Like he should have thrown an interception, and he didn't because he's exhibiting a lot better ball control. And he's making smarter decisions. He's making a case for himself to be drafted into the NFL, no matter what their win loss record looks like at the end of this year.
And that's all you can hope for from his position at this point. Um,
Yeah.
Ole Miss got the win over Mercer, 73-7. The only takeaway from this is Jackson Dart threw 4 touchdowns, 334 yards in the first half, and then Spencer Sanders came in and threw 3 touchdowns himself. And,
Yeah.
and I think this just kind of, it still to me feels like Lane Kiffin should play both of them anyways. I think you should play both of these guys. I don't think you should really just hand the starting job to Jackson Dart and be like, this is it for 4 quarters. You know you have a starting D1 quarterback backing up another starting D1 quarterback. Please play him. He
I
is
think
a
Spencer Sanders is better.
he's I
I
think he is
do.
too. I think he is too, but I think only time will tell. And I think that it's going to take Jackson Dart struggling in a half for Lane Kiffin to pull that trigger, just like Lincoln Riley pulled that trigger with Caleb Williams. It's a hard decision to make. It's one of the hardest coaching decisions to make, and we'll see if Lane Kiffin has the balls to do it. I think he would if he needed to, but I think the biggest takeaway is they've got two solid quarterbacks here, and we don't really know, at least from his perspective, what he's thinking. But I think me and you are correct. I think eventually Spencer Sanders will be the starting quarterback for the Ole Miss Rebels eventually.
Yeah. Yeah. And, I remember when Lincoln Riley pulled Caleb Williams instead of, or when he pulled Spencer Rattler for Caleb Williams, and that was the right decision then. And I think, putting Spencer Sanders in is the right decision now. I think it's going to take the same kind of game.
Yeah.
I don't remember how many interceptions that Spencer Rattler threw
I
in that
don't know.
first half against
Did
Texas.
he throw any? I don't know if he threw any. I thought that maybe he threw two. I want to say two. I want to
I
say
wanna say
two.
he threw 2 because I think he put Caleb Williams in after the second interception,
Yeah.
and, he just looked terrible, and the thing about putting the backup in, benching your starter for a game, it's never necessarily permanent.
No.
Usually it's just like, "Okay, you're having a bad game, we're gonna let him try. Maybe he has a
Yeah.
better
Like what is
better
there to
luck
lose?
against
Like
this
what it
defense."
can't get
Yeah,
worse. That's
yeah,
it can't get worse mentality. And I think that
yeah,
eventually, like you said, Ole Miss will be in that situation eventually. And I think the Lane Kiffin's going to trot Spencer Sanders out there. Now, whether or not it changes the course of a victory like Caleb Williams did, I think that's maybe a little bit far fetched because Spencer's good, but he's definitely not fucking Caleb Williams. So let's
yeah,
dial it back a little bit. But I think that if they're losing to Alabama by like 35 at halftime, sure, throw them in there and make it a 14-point loss maybe instead of 35 points. But I mean, like, I don't think he would be able to orchestrate a huge comeback like that because I don't think he's that good, but I think he's good enough to be serviceable more than Jackson Dart is if he's having a terrible game.
I think that if you put Spencer Sanders in for more snaps than Jackson Dart, the fans would hang Lane Kiffin if he didn't start Spencer Sanders.
Yeah, I'll give you that. I think we're on agreement in that. Texas A&M gets the win over New Mexico, 52-10. Nothing really to take away here. New Mexico's just not very good. It was 35-7 at halftime. Weigman throws for 5 touchdowns, 236. Looks like a starting quarterback. I mean, we'll see how that goes for Texas A&M. Not a Texas A&M fan. Don't like them to do well.
A&M. I don't like him.
But
I hate him.
yeah, but I mean, they did what they were supposed to. Tulane gets
Yeah.
the win over South Alabama, 37-17, and this was a game with only a 7.5 or a 10.5 point spread going into it, and it was 28-10 at halftime. And then the
Took care
second,
of business.
yeah, they took care of business. Michael Pratt throws for 294 yards and 4 touchdowns. Again, the running game's going to suffer without their star running back now that he's in the league playing for the Titans. I think that they're going to lean a lot more on Pratt, and they did that, and they got the win by 20. So no quarrels there with them still being ranked. I think they should be until they lose, but we'll see how long that stays up. I mean, it's Tulane, and they did lose a lot of guys. This game was kind of, again, this was exactly what you thought it was going to be. Iowa beats Utah State by 10, 24-14. Do they really deserve to be ranked over a couple of these teams? I don't think so. I think Iowa is a
Not
fraud.
not a chance.
I think this is homage to the Big Ten type shit. I think eventually you'll see a team like Wyoming, if they keep doing what they're doing, slide their way into the top 25, opposed to having Iowa just stay there as a placeholder. Kentucky gets the win over Ball State, 44-14. Devin Leary, 241, 1 touchdown and a pick, but they ran the ball more than they threw it. Mark Stoops gets the win, and Ball State is terrible. Nothing really to take away from there. Liberty beats Bowling Green by 10, 34-24. Fresno State beats Purdue 39-35. The Bulldogs did it, baby. I thought they were. I knew they were going to give Purdue a run for their money. Purdue was terrible. Mikey Keene, baby, 386, 4 touchdowns and a pick for the Bulldogs. I mean, you're looking at
who does Purdue beat later in the season, though? That's the real question.
Yeah, that's what we're gonna have to look out for. Is which one of these games is gonna be the one where it sneaks up on you. SMU with the win over Louisiana Tech. Talked about that, 38-14. They were up 31-0 at halftime, and Preston Stone throws 3 touchdowns. Northern Illinois upsets Boston College 27-24. Is it an upset if it's Boston College and we only picked them to win like 2 games this year? I mean, we picked them to beat Northern Illinois when we talked about the ACC, but that didn't happen. Yeah. I mean, are we looking at it? They were looking at a really bad Eagles team. I mean, really bad.
Yeah.
You could probably still give Clemson a game, boop boop. But I mean, it's
for that defense.
Yeah, not looking good for Boston College. Ohio gets the win over Long Island University, 27-10. Arkansas drubs Western Carolina, 56-13. Air Force beats Robert Morris, 42-7. Jacksonville State. The game cost of Jacksonville State drubbing East Tennessee State, 49-3. Get on your horse there. Iowa State beats Northern Iowa 30-9. Temple beats Akron 24-21. Auburn gets the win over UMass 59-14. Maryland beats Towson 38-6. Western Kentucky 41-24 over South Florida. Pittsburgh over Wofford 45-7. Cincinnati kills Eastern Kentucky 66-13. Appalachian State beats Gardner-Webb 45-24. Mississippi State over Southeast Louisiana 48-7. Cal beats North Texas 58-21. This was one that only had a 6.5 point spread, Zach. That's kind of the big takeaway here is North Texas, at halftime, they're down, 33-21. It's looking like they could possibly still cover that spread, and then they don't score again the rest of the game, and Cal makes those halftime adjustments and ends up beating them 25-0 in the second half to blow that thing open, and that's how I lost my second of my 6 picks. It was just bad teams not being able to hang, and I guess Cal's better than I give them credit for. I don't know. Cal's not great.
It's the ghost of Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, it's rough. Syracuse just bops Colgate 65-0. I mean, that's expected. I don't know what else to say about that. UNLV beats Bryant 44-14. Charlotte over South Carolina State 24-3. Florida Atlantic and Casey Thompson get the win over Monmouth 42-20. He had 280 yards, 5 touchdowns, and a pick. So Casey Thompson moving on from Nebraska and getting some run down in Boca Raton and looking good against a really bad Monmouth team. Georgia Southern gets the win over the Citadel 34-0. James Madison over Bucknell 38-3. Marshall gets the win over Albany in a squeaker 21-17. So the Thundering Herd maybe not so great. Florida International FIU gets the win over Maine 14-12. Another squeaker. FIU not good either. Just not great. Not great for them for outlook wise. And this was kind of a big one. People thought UL Monroe beats Army 17-13. I did the episode by myself. I said, watch out for UL Monroe. They could beat Army, and they do by 4. Vanderbilt beats Alabama A&M 47-13. Washington State beats Colorado State 50-24. And another huge upset. Talked about DJ Kinney earlier. Texas State beats Baylor 42-31. Is Dave Aranda on the hot seat?
Yes.
I agree. I mean, now we'll get to this later. But anyways, Houston gets the win over UTSA 17-14. Another ugly game to watch. If you watched this Houston game, it was pretty because they were wearing really nice homage to the Oilers uniforms. But this game was ugly, and luckily they covered the 1.5 and beat UTSA by 3. But I was sweating it out there because I just nobody
Hmm.
wanted to score. It looked ugly. Houston's not going to be good this year, and I think that Dana Holgerson might be in trouble as well if they don't pick things up offensively because it looks rough. Um, Memphis gets the win over Bethune-Cookman 56-14. Southern Miss over Alcorn State 40-14. Troy over Stephen F. Austin 48-30. Illinois squeaks by Toledo 30-28. Um, I mean, Illinois not looking great.
Yeah, but we knew
Ooh,
that.
yeah. Well, yeah, just a really ugly win there. Virginia Tech led Old Dominion 2-0 after the first quarter, ends up beating the Monarchs 36-17. But after one, we were like, yeah, that's what's Virginia Tech we think of. And
That's
again, we talked
football.
about this earlier. Virginia Tech was favored when we talked about the ACC to beat some of these teams we thought they weren't supposed to beat, and they did not look like a very good team for a quarter. They did get their bearings, but they only led 16-10 at halftime before blowing out Old Dominion 20-7 in the second half. So credit the defense really there. The offense did not look very good for the Hokies. Louisiana gets the win over Northwestern State 38-13. New Mexico State the win over Western Illinois 58-21. UTEP over Incarnate Word 28-14. Arizona the win over Northern Arizona 38-3. BYU looked really bad in their 14-point win against Sam Houston 14-0. Just a BYU bad.
Mhm.
BYU bad.
They look it. They're
Um,
looking bad.
yeah, what another newcomer not looking good. BYU not looking
Yeah,
good.
and welcome.
Houston not
You
looking
know,
good. Wyoming, the shocker in overtime against Texas Tech, 35-33. Let's touch on this because again, we told everybody. We told you. We told you.
we've been telling
We
y'all.
told you. Don't drink the Red Raider Kool-Aid. Don't drink it. Don't drink it. All these ESPN media heads thinking they're cool, saying, "Oh, Texas Tech could sneak in the playoff. Watch out for Texas Tech." And then what did I tell you? I said, "Watch them lose week 1 to Wyoming. Watch it happen." I believed in the Cowboys. I thought Laramie is such a tough place to win, and to start your season out there is a terrible mistake. And I just knew it. I mean, look, after the first quarter, was I sweating? Yeah, 17-0 Texas Tech, and they scored easily on those first 2 drives. I was like, this is bad. This is looking like a blowout. I'm going to be ashamed. And then what happened? Texas Tech turned into a pumpkin. They turned into Texas Tech. My boy, Tyler Shuck, who transferred from my Oregon Ducks. Bye. Have fun. See ya. Don't let the door hit you on the way out, brother. Because even though you threw for over 330 yards and 3 scores, you got eaten up in that second half by the defense. Only 3 points in regulation the rest of the way. 3 of them. Couldn't sniff the end zone in the second half. And granted, Wyoming wasn't playing great offensively either. A lot of self-harm, a lot of false starts, a lot of bad penalties there, holding calls on big plays. But, shout out to their quarterback, Andrew Peasley, because he really carried them literally. He was their leading rusher, 15 carries, 68 yards, and a huge score in the third quarter and in overtime to get them over the hump. And that pass he threw as he was getting hit to the tight end, I really thought it was over. I saw that guy not even get picked up. Full speed middle linebacker heading for his throat. I was like, oh God, he's going to get sacked. If not, he's going to get
Got
hit
it
as
off
he's
so
thrown.
quick.
And I thought it was going to be a lame duck without a parachute pass because I was like, he's either going to get hit as he's throwing this or he's going to get sacked. And he got that thing out quick and he knew where to look. I said, whenever they're having the middle linebacker blitz, you got to look for the tight end. And sure enough, that boy reached behind himself and grabbed that thing because he could have dropped that pass. It was thrown behind him. He reached back and caught it and walked into the end zone. And then the 2-point conversion, just beautiful execution. And a huge win for Wyoming. Go ahead and rip the Texas Tech Raiders for me.
Yeah, I mean, they looked terrible. Let's be honest. I mean, like the first half, they looked okay. The first quarter, really, they looked okay. But then, I mean, Wyoming, they just had the magic in Laramie happen. I mean, the stadium was rocking. The Cowboys were going, and and it happened. We've been telling y'all the entire offseason. Texas Tech doesn't have anybody that is worth looking at. They just don't have the talent. They don't have the coaching. We told y'all. I don't know what else to say. I mean, they had this preseason ranking because Patrick Mahomes went to Texas Tech, and for some reason that means that they should be ranked at that at whatever spot they were ranked at preseason. Texas
Yeah.
Tech wasn't ranked. I thought they were ranked preseason. No.
Oh,
Well,
they were on
either
the
way,
they were on the outside looking in. They were probably
they're terrible.
26th, 27th. I mean it was yeah. Don't drink the Kool-Aid, folks. I told you.
And it was a great like you said, it was a great last play. I mean, he really. I thought, first time I watched the highlight, I was like, "Oh, he got sacked. What happened?" And then, no, he got that ball off. I didn't even realize it the first time I watched it, and he got it off the tight end. It looked fantastic.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, the offense for Wyoming, had struggled the first early in the game, but coaching is great. Halftime adjustments, they came in, they did what they needed to do.
Yeah, the
You don't.
defense.
It's
Yeah.
and like you said, it's hard to win in Laramie.
Yeah, the defense really is what stood out to me for Wyoming. And you saw Texas Tech not make any adjustments offensively, and that's what kind of bit them in the keister. But what a great win for Wyoming to
Yeah.
get their season started. Another kind of a close, ugly win. UCLA beats Coastal Carolina 27-13. But I told you, Grayson McCall, this dark horse Heisman candidate, was going to keep Coastal Carolina in this game, and I would say they were in it. I mean, 14-6 at halftime, 13-14 in the third. It was really the fourth quarter where he threw both of his picks. That ended up being the difference, and UCLA outscored them 13-0 in the fourth quarter. But this was an ugly game. Chip Kelly's team looks bad. UCLA does not look good, and they don't look like a team that's going to threaten anybody on their schedule other than like your Washington States of the world and your Cals and your Stanfords. I don't know if they're not going to scare USC this season. They're not.
Yeah.
This isn't going to happen. And the last one, San Diego State, the win over Idaho State, 36-28. Another squeaker for the Aztecs, but they get it done. And that kind of wrapped up week one last night. You had a game go on. Duke over number 9, Clemson 28-7. I know you can't wait to talk about this one. Go ahead and give me your analysis of Dabo Swinney getting his bell rung in Durham.
How you don't pay Garrett Riley like $9 million or whatever the hell you're paying him to come be your offensive coordinator and not change your offense? That's what I want to know. The offense looked exactly the same. It was stale. It looked like if they had Trevor Lawrence, they would have won maybe, but they don't. Um, they they looked what they looked terrible. Honestly, I mean, Clemson looked like a team. Clemson looked like Duke should have looked. I don't know how else to put it. Like Clemson, their defense wasn't firing at all. Uh, they I want to remember the stat. Dabo Swinney is like 40-25 without Brent Venables, and with him he's like 121-17. I mean, this guy needs Brent Venables, and sorry, I guess. I mean, we took him. And right now that's looking pretty good. I'll check back in at the end of the season and tell you how I feel about Brent Venables. But I mean, geez, how bad are you without having elite talent around you? Like Dabo, I give him his respect. He has 2 natties. He's a great college coach. He's going to go down as not one of the best of all time, but he's respectable. He'll be in the Hall of Fame. But my big thing about Dabo is that you don't have Deshaun Watson, you don't have Trevor Lawrence. I mean, what are you going to do? And what they do is they lose 28-7 to fucking Duke. To Duke on the season opener. Your season opener is Duke because they're bad. That's kind of the point. And you lost 28-7 to Duke.
Yeah.
I want to rephrase what I said. Duke, like basketball Duke, Clemson, football Clemson lost to basketball Duke in football.
Yeah, that's exactly
I
what
mean,
happened. We witnessed it. And I mean, and to kind of echo off of that is a lot of missed opportunities for Clemson, right? 2 blocked field goals, 2 fumbles inside the 5-yard line when you have first and goal. You just can't have those problems and hope to come out of that situation with a W. But you left 21 points potentially on the board. You left them off. You couldn't capitalize, and that's what ended up beating you in the end because they were in this game until probably late in the third. It was still only a two possession game late in the third, and I was going, just watch. I was like, Clemson has more talent. If Duke continues to shoot themselves in the foot, which they did a lot this game. I mean, there were a lot of calls where Duke was false starting on and then or being offsides on first down on Clemson's first play of their offensive drives. I mean, there were a lot of things that Duke did that could have cost them this win, but thank the lucky stars that Phil Maffa had butterfingers and Will Shipley and Cade Klubnik couldn't hand off the ball properly because that's what ended up
Yeah.
cooking you in the end.
Yeah. No, I agree. I mean, that it was the fundamentals. They were lacking the fundamentals, which tells me a couple things. It tells me that Dabo only knows how to coach like pre-game motivation and like how to be a good person but not a good football player. Like that's what that tells me about Dabo as a coach, and that he was relying on his talented quarterbacks and his defensive coordinator to win those games. That's what it tells me. So I think Dabo has a couple more years left where he's going to lose a lot, and we're going to see him exit college football pretty quickly. I think he's unless they get another Trevor Lawrence, they're done. I
Yeah,
don't know how else to put it.
yeah, I agree. Let's jump into week 2 here real quick. I know that took a bit of time, but I think it needed to be addressed as there were a lot of games on Saturday. Let's take a look at this upcoming Saturday, September 9th. Let's start out with SMU and Oklahoma. Oklahoma, a 15.5 point favorite over the Mustangs. Do they cover? And what are you expecting out of OU at home?
I think OU is going to win 35-10. Um, I'm not expecting 73-0. I mean, SMU is a much better team than Arkansas State is. I think SMU is, I think talent composite wise, they're like top 30. So, I mean, they're a good team. Like SMU is not a team that you can just not think about. It's not your typical week 2 matchup that you're going to get non-conference. They're a better team than people think. So I'm not expecting OU to shut them out. If OU shuts them out, then I think if OU can shut out SMU and win this game, let's say 28-0 or even 35, maybe 42-0, um, then I'll start really, truly non-biasly thinking that OU is one of the best teams in the country.
Yeah,
Um, but if they don't do that, and if it's a close game, obviously, then OU is probably not going to move up much in the rankings, if at all. And obviously, if OU loses this game, um, then I mean they're done. I don't know how else to put it. I'll say Brent Venables is on the hot seat. It's over. Fire him. I'm done. Wash my hands. He's out of here. We're hiring Bob Stoops back. Like that's that's how I would process the situation as an OU fan. Very reasonably, obviously.
yeah. This is supposed to be. Look, the over under here is 68.5. They think this is going to be arena style football scoring. They think this is going to be like 56-35. Or 42-28. This is what they're thinking. And I'm going to be honest. I think the OU's defense has taken a step in the right direction. We saw a lot of good open field tackles. We saw a lot of fundamentals being done right. And if the defensive line can pick up the pressure on the quarterback, Preston Stone's going to have a problem. And I think it's another problem when you have 86,000 people screaming at you for 4 straight quarters. That's another kind of thing that throws a lot of offenses out of whack. We've seen that happen time and time again. I think OU gets the win. I think they cover. I think SMU is good, but like you said, I think they're like a 30-35 kind of ranked team here. They're
Yeah.
good, but I don't think they're going to be able to hang when it matters the most. If OU plays the way they did last week and doesn't turn the ball over and plays with efficiency, they're going to be a tough team for anybody to beat, especially SMU. I think the Sooners cover this one and they get the job done. If it doesn't happen, then you
Yeah.
can cook us like a roast because we'll deserve it.
Yeah.
Moving on to a game with only a 6.5-point spread. My Ducks are only favored by 6.5 over the Texas Tech Red Raiders. Quit drinking the Kool-Aid. Quit drinking the Kool-Aid. We're going to win this game by 21 plus. It's not going to be close. I'm sorry, Texas Tech fans. I know you're at home for this. I know we're traveling down to Lubbock, the worst city in America. But, I mean, I think that what's going to happen is we are going to drub the absolute living shit out of you. So buckle up.
56-17.
Yeah, just get ready, because it's going to be ugly. And you're going to be sitting here asking for your head coach to be absolutely canned by the middle of the season because you are not good, your defense is not good, and our offense is going to run you over. Bucky Irving's going to have 250 yards if you don't stop him. He only had 4 carries and had 119 against Portland State. What do you think is going to happen against your Swiss cheese defense that couldn't even stop the Cowboys of Wyoming? Oh my God, you couldn't stop their quarterback from running. Oh my God, we have Bo Nix, who's not especially dual threat, but he can run. He can cook you, and he'll probably cook you if he needs to, but I don't think you're going to get pressure on him in order to do that. And so I don't think that the 67 is going to be covered, but it's going to be covered because we're going to win this game 56-12. I mean, it's not going to be close. I mean you're going to have Butch Jones crying memes happening like, oh, here's head coach, Matt Wells, like, or whatever, whoever their new head coach is. I don't fucking know who it is. But I mean, it's over. Like, Texas Tech, your season's done. You're cooked. I mean, good luck recovering from losing on the road to Wyoming. You should have stayed up there in the northwestern part and just, shoveled yourself up to Autzon's to play us at home. But, you're too scared, so you had us travel down to bumfuck Lubbock. So, I mean, we're already pissed that we're having to go down there. Just wait until we get on the field. We're going to be super pissed.
Yeah, team's terrible.
Oklahoma State, Oklahoma State, Arizona State, really late kick for this one. 10:30 Eastern, 9:30 Central. Your late night. Oklahoma State, a 3.5-point favorite. I'm picking Arizona State to win this game, Zach. I'm sorry, but Rashada looks good. Their defense is bad, but OSU's offense hasn't shown me anything that makes me think that Arizona State's defense should be scared. I think this is going to be a low-scoring affair. Give me Arizona State 28-21. I think they pull it out at home in the desert late night, and I think I think Mike Gundy's job is not going to be in question because they're not going to find a better coach than him.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm picking Arizona State here. I mean, geez, they look bad. I mean, we already went over why they look bad.
Yeah.
But,
so yeah, I think that'll continue. Nothing really else to report on. Youngstown State plays Ohio State. Georgia is a 42-point favorite over Ball State. I mean, those should be just drubbings. Penn State plays Delaware. Here's one who's.
I don't think we talked about Florida State.
Well, I talked about it on Friday, so you didn't get to. Okay. You didn't get to talk about it. I talked about it. But we'll get to them because it's part of our next segment. So we'll get there. Notre Dame is only a 7.5-point favorite over NC State. That's a mistake. I'm just letting you know that that's a mistake. Don't think that spread is real. It's not real. And here is going to be my surprise game of the week. I hate to say it, Zach, but the Utah Love Fest is over. I'm picking the Baylor Bears to rebound here. It's the battle of the backup quarterbacks. Shapen is out. Cam Rising's still not playing. Give me the Baylor Bears to rebound. Dave Aranda saves his job this week, baby. Please, nobody clip this. I mean, Utah's only a 7.5-point favorite. You know why? Because they know that Baylor's going to be ready. They know that Dave Aranda's been whooping that ass for a week.
Brother, they weren't ready for Texas State.
No one was ready for Texas State, just like no one was ready for Colorado. They're like, 50-plus transfers, they're not going to know what they're doing. And then what happened? They ended up knowing what they were doing. Again, it's one of these things where these teams don't understand how valuable transfers are yet. And I think that Texas State is just shocked Baylor because Baylor was like, they're supposed to be nobodies. How are they beating us? And then Shapen gets hurt, which, doesn't help them at all. Backup quarterback goes in, and that doesn't go well. But the thing is Utah's playing their backup quarterback again. But I think Baylor's defense is going to be ready for this. I mean, you have film. You have a whole entire game of film. You're going to play better than Florida. Baylor will play better than Florida. I'm going to say it right now. Even with a backup quarterback, Baylor plays better than Florida this week. And I think Baylor gets the upset win in Waco, at home. Let's go, Baptists. Get it done. and the Utes do not cover the 7.5, it's going to be Baylor time, baby.
That's insane. You're insane. Like that's insane. That's like the worst take I've heard yet. Is that Baylor is going to beat Utah?
It's happening. It's happening. If Cam Rising was playing, I wouldn't say it. I'm just saying, like it matters.
Both backups are in.
Yeah, I think that Baylor's backup is better. I think if Chapin played, it'd be no contest.
What about the rest of the team? Because they're both just going to be running the ball.
Yeah, so I mean, Baylor's halfback didn't really play well. 16 carries, 79 yards. That offensive line isn't great. I think they're going to be forced to throw it. And I think that's where you're going to have problems. Baylor's probably not.
We'll check back on this.
We'll check. You can check on me. You can check on me at noon Eastern, 11 o'clock in the morning, as I have my eyes glued to Baylor and Utah. Kansas State
by 20.
Oh, God, okay, well I think that's fair. Kansas State plays Troy. Kansas State's only a 16.5 point favorite. I think they blow that out of the water. Troy's not a good team. Pick the Wildcats to cover that. Here's one. Number 22 Colorado, only 3-point favorites at home against Nebraska. It's a joke. It's got to be a joke, right? Like Colorado is going to beat
7.5 is a good spread.
Three is so low. They're gonna beat Nebraska by 21. Nebraska can't hang.
Well, tell me this: do you think Nebraska is better than TCU?
I think they're the same. But I think
so
Nebraska
3.5 sounds like a pretty good line.
No, Nebraska's offense is worse than TCU's. That's the problem. Nebraska's offense is bad. Jeff Sims sucks. No, I don't like it. I don't like him. Nope, I don't like him. I mean, he's not good. You don't bring in a wishbone quarterback to run the spread offense. You don't do that. You don't bring in a Georgia Tech transfer to run a Matt Rule offense. I mean, Matt Rule. I mean, we thought he was gonna be a godsend, but then they end up getting smackety smooped in week 1. I say smackety smooped. They end up doing what they always do: lose to a team in the last possession against Minnesota. You don't think they're gonna lose in the last possession to Colorado? They win by 10. I'll give Colorado a 10.
I think Colorado wins.
Colorado wins by 10.
3.5. I don't 3.5 is a good spread.
Yeah.
I would personally, I'd put it at 7.5.
Yeah, it's got to be more than 3. That's all I gotta say. It's got to be more than 3. I think Colorado is finally finding its footing. And if Nebraska's offense doesn't play any better, it's just going to be a disaster. It's going to be a disaster. This isn't Minnesota. Like this is Colorado we're talking about, and we know that the defense is bad for Colorado. Is it bad enough to allow Jeff Sims to throw for 350 yards? No.
Listen, these two teams are both bowl teams, okay? And they're both barely bowl teams.
Yeah.
Well, I think you're drinking a little Kool-Aid here with Colorado. They were good. They looked good. They looked good, and they do look good. They're not the 1-11 Colorado anymore, but they're also not going to be the 10-2 Colorado.
No, they're not. They're not that good.
So I think the 3.5 is a pretty good spread.
It's just 3. It's just 3. It's just 3. It's just 3.
That's pretty trash, but it should be 7.5. I don't think that Colorado wins this game by more than 10.
Yeah,
if that.
I think 10
this
is
probably a 7-point game. I would probably pick Nebraska to cover 7.5.
Yeah, I'll dial it back. I think 10 is probably a good thing. Do you think the over of 59.5 hits? I think it probably hits.
No.
I mean, if Colorado's defense plays as bad as they did, and Jeff Sims actually gets going, it could be that. We could be looking at 42-35, but probably 28 to 35. I mean,
Nebraska defense is okay, and the Colorado defense is terrible, but the Nebraska offense is terrible,
and Colorado's offense is better. Yeah, so I mean,
so it's going to be like it's going to be a lower scoring game.
38-28.
I mean, Sugar Sanders is still going to throw 5 touchdowns or 4 touchdowns, but it's not going to be with 45 points. It'll be like, I mean, 38's a little high. I think it'll probably be like 28 to. I would pick 28 to 24.
Okay. I mean, yeah. All right. I could see that 5 points under the over under. I mean, if what you're saying happens. I think this is definitely a game that I'll be keeping a tabs on while I'm watching Baylor get
for sure.
slammed in.
I mean, we're tuned in for Travis Hunter. Let's not lie about it.
Yeah. Any other interesting games going on? I'm looking here. Texas A&M plays Miami. Only 4.5-point favorites against the Hurricanes.
It's still not interesting yet. That's not an interesting one yet. We'll have to see about Texas A&M.
You think Texas A&M wins that one?
Probably.
Oh, here's one that we've talked about a little bit off the air. Iowa and Iowa State. Iowa, 4-point favorite over the Cyclones, baby.
Hey.
This one's in Ames. El former Presidente will be there.
Oh yeah, I remember that. Yeah, that's worse than hell.
It is though. The 36.5 point spread is gonna choose the under. Choose the under.
It's gonna be 6-2.
Yeah, 6-6. There's gonna be a safety.
All safeties.
All safeties, and all just on high snaps over the punter's head. Like not even the defense getting it. Just not really any other games to really talk about. Other than the Texas-Alabama game, really. I'm looking at this list here, and I'm not seeing anything that's super scary. Okay, here's one. Wyoming against Portland State. Do you think they beat them 81-7? Because I'm thinking no.
I'm thinking 45-7.
Okay, yeah, I'll give you that. Any chance Tulsa beats Washington?
No.
Washington's a 34.5-point favorite. Think they cover?
Yeah.
Or no, sorry, just 34. Sorry, just 34. Yeah, they probably. Tulsa's bad.
Yeah.
You think Appalachian State scares North Carolina at all this week?
Scare maybe in the first half.
Okay, so the 18-point spread pretty safe. Think North Carolina pulls it out by 21.
Probably.
Just making sure there's nothing else to really look at here. LSU plays Grambling, nothing there. UCLA and San Diego State, Florida State, Southern Miss, Stanford and USC, baby. Let's go Cardinal. USC 29-point favorites over Stanford. They cover.
No.
Yeah, they're not covering. Pick Stanford plus the points, folks.
Oh yeah. Stanford wins.
So I guess this last couple of minutes, let's talk about Texas and Alabama. 7 Eastern, 6 Central in Tuscaloosa. Over under 54.5. Alabama only a 7-point favorite here. I think you gave a pretty good speech about how you think Alabama is just going to drub Texas. I think this isn't going to be close as well. I think this is a 21-point victory, if not more, for Alabama. I do think Texas will score. I don't think they're going to be held to under 10 points. I think they score 17 or 24 points in this game because I don't think Alabama's defense is that great. Middle Tennessee State is not going to give you good offensive looks, and I think that Texas will give them looks because Xavier Worthy's dangerous. Quinn Ewers is better than Middle Tennessee State's quarterback. I think we have to admit those facts. But how big is that gap? It's big, but I think Alabama proves why they deserve to be the number 3 team in the country. I think they beat Texas, and Texas falls close to out of the top 25 here. I think they fall to 23. They might fall below Colorado this week if they just get smoked, and I wouldn't be opposed to that. Alabama's a good team.
It's Texas. Texas. They're not gonna get ranked below 20 if they lose to Alabama.
All right, you're right, because it's a third ranked team. So I mean they're gonna take that into effect too. So you're right. They're not going to, but it's if
it was OU, they would.
Yeah, they would. Yeah, they would. But that kind of wraps up as far as week 2 games that mean anything. I think we've covered those. So let's go ahead into one of my favorite news segments. Who's drinking that Kool-Aid?
Hey, you know I want some Kool-Aid.
Yeah. Shut the love, bro. Drink the Kool-Aid. It ain't the end, baby. It's a new day. Future's so bright, I bought some new shades. So stack bottoms up. Drink the Kool-Aid.
Who's drinking the Kool-Aid? It's Brett McMurphy, folks. He's drinking that Florida State Kool-Aid. He's got them at number 1 in the country for his top 25 AP ballot. I mean, look, I talked about Florida State beating LSU. You haven't really given us your 2 cents. Go ahead and give us your 2 cents and tell us why, even though Florida State deserves to be ranked in the top 10 and in the top 5, deservedly so, why they're not the number 1 team in the country. But go ahead.
they're not the number one team in the country first because Georgia would have beat them by 21. Um, like, let's be honest, Georgia's not letting LSU hang with them like that. Um, Florida State looks good. Like their offense was humming really well. Defense was playing okay. I mean, let's not forget that this game ended up being like 90 points or something. Like I don't know what the over under was, but they definitely hit the over. Um, and LSU looked pretty good too. I mean, like people are acting like this was a huge. I mean, it was. I guess it was a huge victory for Florida State. But let's talk about the first half. Like first half of the game, LSU looked pretty good. I was really hoping that LSU was going to pull it out. I'm watching the game. I'm like, okay, Brian Kelly, good coach, close game going into halftime. He's going to probably be able to pull this one out against Florida State. Not really a super well proven head coach yet. You know, questions on the team, but you know, obviously has a lot of talent. And Florida State comes out of that locker room and just bullies LSU for that second half. I mean, the entirety of that second half just bullied them, except for one late touchdown by LSU. I don't think they scored that entire half. So I mean, I think that Florida State, yes, they deserve to be ranked in the top five. They don't deserve to be ranked. Um, they don't deserve to be ranked number one or number two. I could see number three, but I'm still giving number three to Alabama, and I think that Florida State in my top 25 is number four. So that's where I'd put them right now. I don't think they're going to stay there. I do think they'll fall out of the playoff. Um, I'm changing my original prediction based on week one. I think that they're going to win the ACC. They're going to beat out North Carolina for that. So we might see them in the playoff, but I'm not sure on that yet.
Yeah, I mean that's definitely a thought that I've had as well.
Like LSU looked good the first half. They looked mid the second half, and are we really going to give Florida State number one for beating LSU? Like it was just the first exciting game of the season. Let's calm down.
Yeah, I agree with that take. I think that's exactly gonna really. I mean, Brett McMurphy's always got some hot ones, and that was a hot one for sure. So let's go. Do you want to touch on your top 25 here before we get into picks real quick, or do you want to go ahead and?
I mean, I'll just list it off.
Okay. Yeah,
I just want to list it off, and you know, you can tell me just like a couple things that are wrong with it. Obviously, I'm not. I'm biased to OU a little bit, but I tried my best to not be. And I tried my best not to hate other teams because of my OU bias. I ranked Texas ahead of OU still, so you're welcome. Top four, no huge surprises. Georgia, number one. Number two is Michigan. I still think they're better than Alabama. Number three is Alabama. Number four is Florida State. Right now, that's who I have going to the playoff. Number five, I have Notre Dame, higher than most. I think Notre Dame is a really, really good team. I think Marcus Freeman is a great, phenomenal coach that just had to do a couple of years under him. Sam Hartman is going to be in New York City. I'm 100% believe that. And I mean, are they eligible to win the ACC championship? I know they play the ACC conference. I don't think they can win the championship though.
I don't think
So, I mean, they're not going to obviously like that will like hinder their playoff chances, but I think they're going to go undefeated during the regular season probably. And we might see them in the playoff unless unless there's the opportunity to put two SEC teams in, then they'll do that. Number six, I have Caleb Williams, not USC. I have Caleb Williams because he is the only good thing about that team right now, in my opinion. He makes everyone on the offense look good. No one else on that offense is really that good. He makes that offense look really good. Their defense is terrible. Alex Grinch is terrible. They're going to be out of the top 10 at the end of the year, and I think we've already kind of seen hints of that. So yeah, I guess number six is like USC or whatever. Number seven is Oregon. I think I have Oregon higher than most just because I think Oregon, one, they have a really good quarterback, which does a lot for college football. I do think they're going to win the Pac-12. I think they're going to beat USC. And like you said, they're licking their fucking chops right now against that Alex French secondary. So I'm really excited to see that blow up. Let's move on down here. Number eight, I got Ohio State. no surprises here. They looked kind of bad, but they also looked okay. So I'm keeping them in the top 10, but they're number 8. Number 9, I got Penn State. I think Penn State looked really good against West Virginia. Obviously, they had a late touchdown and a 2-point, I think, at the end, which gave them it was like a 21-point game or something like that. But that was a late. Obviously, Penn State didn't have their starters in at that point. I think Penn State looked pretty damn good and is going to give Ohio State and probably even Michigan a little bit of trouble in the Big Ten. Number 10, I have Tennessee. No huge surprises. They looked good. Their quarterback is running over dudes. I'm happy about that. When Joe Milton looks pretty damn good, so I think they're going to stay in this top 10 for a while. I guess we'll see how it shapes out. I do have them going 9-3, I think is what I said originally. So they're probably going to stay in this top 10 until the very end of the season. Number 11, I got Washington. They're not as good as Oregon. I think people are overestimating Washington a lot. I think they're kind of glazing Michael Penix Jr. a little bit. I do think he's really good. I don't think he's better than Bo Nix. I don't think he's better than Caleb Williams. He is not the best quarterback in the Pac-12 by any means. Number 12, I have Texas. Whatever. Number 13, I have Utah. I don't think that they're going to lose to. I don't even remember who they're playing, but whoever you said, Baylor. They're not going to lose to Baylor. Baylor was trash in week 1. I don't think they're going to lose to Baylor. I think they're going to stay around this top 15
Turn
area.
it around,
They're going to stay in this top 15 area. I do think they're a team to watch out for in the Pac-12. They're kind of a sleeper playoff team, in my opinion, but they obviously didn't look too much like it in week 1, so we'll see how they kind of play as the season goes on. Number 14, Boomer Sooner. I got OU. I think Oklahoma, while they played Arkansas State, they still showed a lot of improvement from last season. I mean, a ton of improvement on a season where a lot of games were decided by 1 score or less. So I'm pretty happy about what I saw as an OU fan in that game 1. And I think that the defense is going to be the star of this team. I think Dylan Gabriel has improved a lot. I think he's kind of relaxed a lot of my concerns as an OU fan based on his performance on turnovers, etc. But he looked a lot better. Jackson Arnold is the future. Oklahoma looked good. Number 15, I have North Carolina. I think people are underrating them a little bit. I think 15 is around where they're actually at on the AP poll. I don't remember exactly, but I think that UNC has the chance to win the ACC as long as they can beat Florida State, which I don't think they're going to do currently, but we'll see as the season continues what they can do. Number 16, I have Kansas State. I don't think they're as good as you think they are. I still think they're pretty good. Obviously, reigning Big 12 champions for a reason. They have a good coaching staff. They have a solid core on defense, and I think that they're a team to watch out for in the Big 12. But I just don't see them beating OU or Texas right now. Number 17, I have Oregon State. They looked really good. DJ Uiagalelei looked like he should have at Clemson, but he didn't look like that at Clemson. So now he's looking like he should at Oregon State for some reason. And I think that they are somehow kind of good and possibly a sleeper in the Pac-12 as well for its final season. I think Oregon's going to have a tougher time than you think they're going to have against Oregon State here. Number 18, I have Ole Miss. No surprises here. They look good. Not much to say about that. Jackson Dart looked good. Spencer Sanders looked good. Everything looked good. But they're just not. I don't think they're that team in the SEC, and because of the conference they're in, I got to put them at number 18. Number 19, I have LSU, the highest ranked 0-1 team I have on this list, just because they still hung around a little bit against Florida State, and they're my number 4, so I obviously got to have LSU in here somewhere. Number 20, I got our boys over there in Colorado. They are just rocking right now with the media coverage there. The story of college football, Travis Hunter, is that dude, and until they lose a game, they are going to stay in my top 20 probably. Unless they're beating teams by 21, they're going to stay in that 18 to 20 range, but they are staying at number 20 for me right now, and I see them holding that next week. Number 21, I got Wisconsin. They looked just okay, not much better. They're holding on into the top 25, in my opinion, until they win a game by less than 7 points. Then we have Texas A&M. They looked okay. Weidman looked pretty good. I underrated them a little bit in the offseason, but they're not what we think they are. Number 23 is Tulane. They are what we think they are, which is one of the better teams coming out of the group of 5, obviously. They're a great football team. I don't know what else to say about it. They're a good football team. They're well coached, and they beat USC for a reason. So I don't know what else to say about Tulane other than they deserve to be number 23 until they prove me otherwise. Number 24, I have Kansas. I think that I think what's his first name? Bean. Is it Jason? Yeah, Jason Bean. He looked really good. He was really efficient. He had like 248 for 2 touchdowns. I think Kansas is a team to watch out for. They're not going to win more than 7 games, but they are they're a mid to good team. And then number 25, just for shits and giggles, I threw in Duke because come on, they beat Clemson. Let them have a top 25 for a minute. And obviously last season they were okay. They were 9-4. They had a couple top 25 appearances. I think they're not going to be 9-4 this season probably, but I do think that they are an 8-win team, based on what I saw. So I'm happy about that. And I would say like just outside of that top 25, who did I tell you earlier? I think was right outside of it for me. I think I
Wyoming.
mentioned it. Yeah, Wyoming's right there.
Where's Clemson at?
So Clemson is hanging on like number 30 for me right now, for being honest. They look bad. Like, I'm not gonna let Dabo's 2 wins sway me otherwise.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really have any other really problems with this. I do think that instead of Duke, I would probably have. Well, no, I like that. Um, obviously Clemson's probably missing on here. They probably are better than Kansas. Now not
But why? But why?
But just because of talent, like not because I think they're gonna fall out of the top 25 if they keep playing like that. But I don't think they're gonna fumble again inside the one. I think they're gonna clean those issues up, and I think they'll be back to being a decent team. I don't think they're going to win the ACC. They could still be in the championship game, but I don't think they're going to, be a team that's going to be looked at as a playoff team. But I don't think that dropping them out to 30 is really warranted, but I get why. I mean, prisoner of the moment, I get it. Like, I mean, it makes sense, but I mean, because it looks so bad. But it's like
finish like 9-3 at best.
But that's still going to be ranked. That's still going to be.
I mean, that's top 25,
20s.
obviously, but yeah. But right now, like what we're seeing right now.
If they play like that the rest of the season, they're not going to beat anybody. But I mean, like I don't think that. I think Dabo will clean it up. I think they'll be, like you said, 8-9 win football team. Probably playing for the ACC championship, because I think, I don't know, they might still beat North Carolina. I mean, it's still possible. I don't think. I mean,
that game's going to be a good one. I think.
Yeah, it's going to be a good one. Unfortunately, I don't think it's going to be a blowout like a lot of people would say now. But I think we'll see some improvement. Obviously, week 1, you're gonna have your problems, but it doesn't get much worse than 2 blocked field goals and 2 fumbles inside the 5-yard line. That's pretty bad.
Terrible.
And I just don't think that's gonna happen again. So that's probably why I would have them probably still ranked. I don't think I would throw Wyoming in there just yet as well, because they didn't beat a ranked team, so it's not really the same. But they did beat a team that everybody was like dark horse, and I think that was kind of why I was just like, I get fucked, And so that's that. Do I like Tennessee being above Washington? Yeah, I like that. Oregon being above Ohio State and Penn State seems right to me. Kansas State being below OU still kind of bothers me, but I feel like you're looking at an OU team that right now, if they were to play on a neutral field, would beat them. So I feel like that's accurate. Is UNC better than Kansas State? Yes. Utah, without Cam Rising, they're probably not 13th, but there's no reason to move them anywhere because they haven't done anything to like really make anybody have to move them anywhere. If they lose this weekend to Baylor, then it's like, oh God. But I'm still probably going to ride with that, just because I feel like Dave Aranda's going to clean some shit up. But I think Battle of the Backups will be a game to watch. It'll be a game to watch, and I think that Baylor could squeak it out at home in a hostile environment. Down in the heat, those Utah boys are going to be sweating, and I think that it could be problematic. But I like the top 25. I like it. Not much to say. So speaking of that, let's get into picks here. You've got $65 to work with, my friend. So pick 6 games you want. 2 are your locks. Go ahead and give me what you want and how much you want on each.
I gotta look up these spreads. Let me look at these spreads here. All right. Let's see. Can I just get to them? Here we go. I'll pick a Friday game here.
Oh,
I think it's the only Friday game. I think it's Illinois and Kansas. think it.
Kansas -3.
Yeah, Kansas -3.5. I'm picking Kansas.
It's 3 on DraftKings, just 3.
Oh, I got 3.5 on CBS. So
we're using DraftKings.
even if it's 3, even if it's I get it. But even if it's 3, I'll keep Kansas there. Let me actually move to DraftKings.
So how much are we putting on that one? Yeah, it's 65 to work with.
Give me just 15 on that.
15 on that. All right.
Yeah, quick. Let me get to where the hell is college football? Damn, it's college football. Why can't I find it? Here we go. College football odds. All right, yeah. So I'm taking Kansas -3. I'm gonna lock that. I'm locking that in, but I'm only gonna put 15 on it. But I am gonna lock it in just because I want to put a huge bet on one of my others.
Okay. Okay. All right. So you got 50 to play with.
Yeah. Colorado and Nebraska. Give me Colorado -3. Not a lock.
How much you want to put on that out of the 50?
10.
10. Okay, 10 on that. Okay.
All right. Now give me Utah and Baylor.
Okay.
I'm gonna take Utah. And you can throw by 7.5. I'm taking Utah. And how much do I have to work with?
You have right now. You have 20. You have 40 to work with.
Give me 30 on that.
Okay, 30 on that one. All right, 30 on that one.
30 on Utah, just to piss you off.
Okay, that's fair.
And then let's see. I'm gonna go ahead and bet on OU.
Okay.
-15.5. I'll put what I got, 10 left.
10 left, and you have 3 more to go.
So I'll just put 5 on that one, and I'll split my $5 on the other 2.
Okay,
so I'll put 5 on OU.
5 on OU to cover against SMU. Where is?
And then
Closed. What does it mean closed?
give me $2 on Cincinnati +7.
Cincinnati +7 against Pittsburgh.
And finally, and really this should probably be a lock. I think this should be a lock. But it's not because I already did my locks. Oregon -6.5. I'll put my other $3 on Oregon -6.5. That's Jesus.
I don't know why it's not letting me pick the OU. It says it's closed. And you can do the over under total. Do that. 68.5.
Why won't it won't let you enter on OU?
It says it's closed.
That's weird. I'll take the under.
Under 65. All right. Well, we'll put 5 on the under of 60.
It's at 68.5.
Or yeah, 68.5.
Yeah.
Yep, 68.5. Those are your 6, and your 2 locks are Kansas and what? Utah or Kansas and Oregon?
Utah.
Kansas and Utah. Okay, Kansas and Utah are your locks. Go ahead and print screen that. All right, I'll go ahead and give you mine as well. All here. So we're gonna start out here with. I'm just gonna start out with Colorado -3. I've got $778 to work with, so give me 110 on Colorado to cover the 3 against Nebraska. Give me Notre Dame -7.5 against NC State. I'm gonna put 100 on that. Give me Baylor +7.5. I'm gonna put 25 on that. Give me Texas and no, fuck that. Give me Give me Alabama minus the 7.5. Whatever that may be. There it is. Minus the 7.5. Give me Alabama minus 7.5. Give me 150 on that. I got 2 more to select, and how much do I have left? I'm about to find out here. Minus. I have $393 left. So 393 divided by
Put it
2.
all on Oregon.
I probably should. 100. So I'm gonna put $300 on my Ducks to beat the absolute living shit out of Texas Tech. Where the fuck is that? Minus 6.5, more like minus 60.5. 300 going there, and then my last $93 I am going to throw at which one do I really like? Give me Arizona State plus the 3.5. I'm gonna throw $93 on that, and those are my locks of the week. My locks are going to be Notre Dame and Oregon. Those are my locks. Are Notre Dame and Oregon. There it is. Write it down.
Fighting Irish, baby.
Get it done.
Fighting Irish, baby.
And I think that and if I get them all right, miraculously, we're looking at 36 grand, baby. Looking like 36 G's. But don't do it because that includes Baylor winning that game, and I talked myself into circles, but I think it's gonna happen.
Happening.
I believe in you, Dave Aranda. You beautiful bald man. You beautiful
It's
bald
not
man.
gonna happen. I don't know. I mean, if it happens, listen, if it happens, you'll be the first person I apologize to. But,
yeah, you bet. I better be. I better be. Any last words before we get out of here, brother?
Boomer Sooner, baby. You already know they're going to end up in the playoff.
All right, Boomer Sooner coming from Zacharino and for Will to Thrill here at 0ner Sports Radio. Keep your sticks on the ice, and we'll see you for episode 46.